Hi, I'm Nate from Recapped Now. Today, I'm going to recap a 2009 melodrama comedy movie called Deep in the Valley. When two friends are accidentally pulled into the realm of pornographic films, their trip is unexpected. Lester Watts, an obsessive adult film lover, views a Diamond Gym commercial and quickly enters his contest via the store's telephone. While on the phone, a boy approaches the counter to pay for his adult magazine. Despite the fact that it is inappropriate for his age, Lester seems unconcerned and continues to hammer out details with the caller. After that, his boyhood friend Carl walks into the business. Carl proudly tells Lester that he has landed a new corporate position. Lester is proud of his friend after hearing this, but he quickly asks him how his fiancée reacts to the news, given that he is now working for her father. Carl's confidence gradually fades, but he tells Lester truthfully that he hasn't told her yet. When Lester expresses his disappointment, Carl responds defensively that his girlfriend is a wonderful woman who solely looks out for him. Lester believes Carl's argument is absurd, so he chastises him and calls him a jerk. Carl feels confident in his judgments and assures Lester that everything will be all right. Or so Carl believes, for when he goes home, Tracy, his wealthy British lover, chastises him for abruptly leaving her father's corporation. She guilt-trips him for all the favors her father has done for him, leaving him dumbfounded. When he tries to explain his reasons, Tracy interrupts him and decides he will stay at her father's firm. Carl has no choice but to focus on their dinner. After the couple's disastrous meal, Lester visits Carl's residence and stays with him for the night. While they are drinking, Lester expresses his disappointment to Carl that he quickly succumbed to Tracy's wishes. In the midst of their quarrel, a sharp knock draws their attention, so the two check the door. When the two arrive at the door, they are surprised to see a large and mysterious crate. As a result, they do not spend time and open it right away. The mysterious package reveals Diamond Gym's vintage adult film booth, which is one of the giveaway prizes Lester hopes to obtain. Lester, as expected, is astounded by the rare object in front of him, while Carl is perplexed and questions whether he ordered it. Lester asks his query, hoping to elicit a response from his brain, but he doesn't know because he's been blackout drunk for the past few weeks. However, he confesses that he wishes to have the booth. Suddenly, a dim remembrance appears in his head, and he understands that he did call someone on the phone, but Lester hopes he did not purchase the booth because it is expensive. Lester is excited to try out the booth, so he plugs it in right away. Carl is inquisitive, so he supports Lester's enthusiasm for attempting the booth and takes the honor of pressing the power button. The booth instantly comes to life, and Lester expresses his enthusiasm about attempting it. Carl, on the other hand, grows doubtful and turns down Lester's offer. Despite the rejection, Lester attempts to persuade him to try the booth. Carl eventually succumbs to Lester's pestering and enters the booth. After some time, Lester's favorite film, W𝗶𝗁𝗵 appears, and he proudly explains to Carl that it is a masterpiece they must watch. As the two prepare to consume the film, the booth suddenly begins shaking, frightening Carl. A bright flash of light envelops the booth, and the two find themselves transported to Deep Valley, the setting of the adult films. While they try to recover, a group of police cars surround the two, and they are arrested. Inside the police, Lester's interrogator is a seductive detective named W𝗶𝗶𝗵, who whips him repeatedly after he makes an unauthorized remark. Rod storms out of the room after threatening Carl with his cannon junk, causing Carl to refuse. Lester's alcohol-hazed mind slowly clears, and he asks Susie if they've met before, to which she replies that she doesn't know, but that she encounters punks like him every day. After a few seconds, Lester remembers her name, but the woman brushes it off and gets straight to the point, offering him two options, the easy way or the hard way. After leaving the precinct, Carl grabs Lester and sneaks into a yard to hide, but they end up at a sorority party. They can't hide their admiration for the beautiful women, but seeing Rod's car causes them to flee. When Rod and Susie don't find them in the neighborhood, the two speed away. Unbeknownst to them, the men are simply hiding behind the bushes, ogling the women playing with water. Carl thinks Lester is joking, so he chastises him, but Lester proves his point by saying a line from the film, and one of the girls in the yard actually says the same line Lester said earlier. Carl is taken aback by what he has seen, so Lester goes on to tell him that he knows some women in their current world. Afterward, Lester hypothesizes that maybe they have been electrocuted to death inside the booth, but he expresses his happiness because their current world is heaven for him. However, Carl is determined that everything is just a drunk dream, and he will wake up to reality soon. Suddenly, an unknown voice interrupts their conversation, revealing himself to be Diamond Jim, who introduces himself to the two and tells them to call him DJ. While Lester enthusiastically welcomes him, C. Fortunately, DJ explains that they have been transported into an alternate reality where the theme is adult films. At first, Carl is in denial, but DJ calms him down and tells him that he has been brought into this reality for a reason and that he must complete his journey so that he can return home. Now that Carl is convinced, DJ advises them to do whatever they want in this reality. DJ magically disappears. In Carl's case, W𝗶𝗵𝗵𝗽 confronts him with some hostility, but he explains why he's in their world. Carl, on the other hand, hides in the wardrobe, and the two take advantage of it to spy on the girls while they're changing. Lester, on the other hand, easily adapts to his situation and pretends to be a quality control officer, threatening Daphne that he'll seize. Fortunately, Bambi is on Carl's side, so she immediately assists him in finding a hiding place. As she learns more about Carl's situation, her hostility toward him lessens, and she becomes more empathetic toward him. When a car arrives, interrupting their conversation, they discover that Rod is their visitor, and Carl frantically explains to Bambi that he is the one hunting them down. Rod's mission to apprehend Lester and Carl is revealed to them, but he demonstrates his manliness by swinging a baseball bat, causing Carl to scream in pain. Bambi diverts Rod's attention by asking why he's in their room. Fortunately, Rod is too dense to notice their presence, so he departs, thinking his visit was in vain. Carl agrees and enjoys Bambi's caress on his face. Meanwhile, in Rod's office, one of his officers reports that Lester and Carl are in the hospital, so he wastes no time and orders his people to make their move. Inside the hospital room, Carl tries to leave, but a worried Bambi stops him in his tracks. He explains that he can't waste any more time, so he needs to find Lester and look for the portal, but Bambi refuses to help them because she hasn't. Carl thanks Bambi and receives a good luck kiss in return. When Carl escapes, he hears a commotion outside his room, only to discover that Susie is on a hunt for them. Immediately, he returns inside and rummages through the drawers to find a disguise. After wearing his disguise, he leaves the room, only to be summoned by a nurse who mistakes him for a real doctor. Lester, on the other hand, receives a sensual sponge bath from the... During the night, the two friends successfully return to the sorority house. Inside Bambi's room, she and Carl become acquainted, but their conversation takes a serious turn when they begin discussing the meaning of love. Despite his fear, Lester's call for help gives him the courage to knock out Susie with a folding chair. Carl then frees Lester, and the two leave the hospital through the back door. Lester is eavesdropping, so he tells Carl to be a man and return to Bambi. Moments later, Lester prepares a bubble bath for him and Daphne when Susie sneaks up behind him and repeatedly kicks his crotch until she knocks him down. Susie basks in Lester's pain, making her unaware that Carl has sneaked up from behind her. After tapping her shoulder, Carl once again knocks her unconscious with a folding chair. Before going to bed, the two converse, and Lester learns that Carl is starting to develop feelings for Bambi, so Lester encourages him to pursue her. The following morning, Carl wakes up early and decides to explore the rooms inside the campus to find the portal. Meanwhile, in the sorority house, Rod seduces Daphne, but before they begin the deed, he orders her to tell the whereabouts of the two men. When Daphne refuses, he zips his zipper, signaling the end of their AF. Back at Deep Valley College, Carl returns to the locker room in search of his friend, only to find him missing. Suddenly, two of Rod's men barge into the room, finding Carl inside. As a result, Carl immediately flees and bumps into Lester. Afraid of the men's presence, Carl takes Lester with him, and the two find their way outside. After successfully leaving, the two don a hip-hop outfit as their disguise, and they plan to visit W𝗶𝗁𝗏, one of the established people. Karl enters the VIP room and successfully locates the portal, but he is unaware that Bambi is in the same room as him. When Bambi notices him, she is curious about why he is at the party, so Daphne hypothesizes that he is finding their portal. When Bambi descends the stairs to confront him, she finds him surrounded by various women, breaking her heart. Lester, who is having a great time with Busta, can't hear Karl's calls, so he pretends to teach him a lesson to avoid upsetting the crowd. Inside the VIP room, Lester is delighted to see the portal, but he doesn't want to return to the real world because he feels he belongs in deep. The two try to blend in with the crowd outside the VIP room, but Rod's men become conscious and aim their guns at them, unaware that Busta's people have their own guns. When Busta bumps Lester's chest in pride, Lester's grills fall off, ruining their disguise. Karl comes to his rescue and successfully subdues the two, and the two leave. Karl returns to the sorority house, dressed in his original outfit, and eagerly meets Bambi. However, Bambi doesn't share his enthusiasm and immediately confronts him with what she saw earlier in the party. Karl tries to explain, but Bambi is too wounded. A few hours later, Karl observes Bambi's windows from afar, reminiscing their memories together. His reminiscing lasts until morning, when a van's presence wakes him from his awe. After a while, the two arrive at DJ's mansion, hoping to find the portal there. To blend in with the crowd, the two wear their swimming outfits and sneak inside DJ's residence. However, their plan is interrupted when Susie is part of the party crowd, and she immediately chases them down. The two ascend the stairs and check out every room to find a possible place to hide, but the peculiar guests inside each room stall them for a bit. Karl and Lester clear their heads. When they successfully subdue them, they head to the backyard, but Rod is able to recuperate, and he rams them down the pool. With their sudden dive, a commotion forms, catching DJ's attention, and this goes to Lester and Karl's favor, so they ask him to send them home. Hearing this breaks DJ's heart, especially since they want to give up their journey, and he instructs them about the ritual that will send them home, when the two religiously follow. Before the two can leave, Rod objects because he sees the two as problems. However, DJ doesn't listen to him. Instead, he fires him because he's not doing a good job as a cop. Afterward, DJ once again asks the two if their decision is final, and Lester confirms. Karl, on the other hand, is hesitant because he will be leaving his budding romance with Bambi, and he runs to Bambi's location, hugging her and professing his love for her. Before he can leave, DJ reveals a secret he has been keeping hidden. He is Lester's father. When Lester learns this, he passes out. Meanwhile, in the real world, Karl tries to fix the booth when Tracy barges into his house. Tracy confronts Karl for his disappearance, but she stops midway when she sees the house in shambles. After making a snarky comment about the house, Tracy orders Karl to get changed to meet her parents. As if on autopilot, Karl accepts her orders, but when he sees the portal's parts, he comes to realize his worth. Therefore, for the first time, he refuses Tracy's orders and kicks her out of his house. During the night, Karl drowns himself in liquor and plans to spend his night watching DJ's network. Instead of seeing DJ as the host, he is surprised that Lester has taken over his role. When Bambi appears in the show, Karl feels heartbroken, causing him to sulk. Little does he know that Lester has sent Bambi into the real world as his gift. When Bambi reunites with Karl, the two share a kiss, marking the start of their love story. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed the recap. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more movie recaps. Stay tuned for our next cinematic adventure, and until then, happy watching.